Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, a podcast about leaving self-doubt in the dust, punching fear in the face, and taking bold action toward your biggest dreams. I'm Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my friend Thembi Bheka. Say hi.
Hi, I'm so excited.
Me too.
Excited to be here with Angie. I think you're one of the most hilarious people I know.
Oh, thank you. I know it's funny too, because we just spent 20 minutes just talking and catching up before we started recording. It's been so long. But tell us a little bit about your business, where you are in the world, because you're a traveler too, and I love that.
Yes. So my name is Thembi Bheka, as Angie just said. I am currently in Zimbabwe. Permanently, I usually live in Canada, in Kelowna, Canada. But right now, because of COVID and everything, and my business as well, my business is very heavily relied on in Zimbabwe. So my business is called Virtual Staff on Demand. I train African women from abusive relationships to work as virtual assistants and digital marketing assistants. So right now, I am in Zimbabwe, basically just working with them a little bit. And yeah, so.
Oh, that's a mission so close to my heart. I've talked about it a little bit, but not super publicly. I did have an abusive relationship that I was in for a number of years. And when I finally, got the clarity and the strength that I needed to leave, that support system was vital, knowing that I had kind of a safety net to get out. And when I got back on my feet, I turned around and volunteered at crisis shelters for a while on the hotline. So this is a mission that's pretty close to my heart, and I want to make sure that people hear about it.
Thank you for that. And I think a lot of people don't really, this is the thing about being in an abusive relationship. Usually you don't know you are in until you're out.
Yes.
And yeah, and then sometimes you're stuck thinking, how do I move on? How do I do this? So for me, because I was also in an abusive relationship, it was very important for me to help these women live and just have that financial freedom. And I think if you are volunteering in a shelter, that's a beautiful thing, because really financial freedom is the most important thing we can ever give to people.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I think that's a good point, because I think there's a perception. We're going to go off on a tangent because this is important stuff to bring light to. A lot of people, when they hear abusive relationship, they think just physical, like somebody's getting beaten up or hit. And why wouldn't you know you're in an abusive relationship? And there are many types of abuse. Financial, that you just mentioned, was one of them. If somebody controls all your money and you literally don't have money to leave and go somewhere else, that's one form of abuse. Limiting your access to people and resources, controlling the relationships that you have, that's another form of abuse. The one that I dealt with was, because I kept my money separate from him smartly, mine was emotional abuse. And it doesn't happen quickly. It's not like a switch flips. It's a little bit at a time. They push your boundaries. They push your buttons. You normalize this behavior. You wonder if you're overreacting. And then, like you said, years later, when I get out of this relationship, I'm like, none of that was okay. Not a single damn bit of what he said to me was okay. And when I repeat this stuff to people, they're surprised that I was in a relationship like that. They're shocked.
Yeah, that is so true. You're right. Because actually, I have found personally, I feel like being in a physical abusive relationship is better, because at least you can tell and I don't think there's any better of the two evils, but at least you can tell and that I'm being abused. But with emotional, you're basically losing your self-esteem and losing who you are for so long, until at the end, you don't even know who Angie Coley it really is.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened to me. I mean, I remember being so astonished and touched when I first knew my relationship was over on a mastermind call, incidentally. So I'm talking to all my business buddies and I'm supposed to be saying, hey, here's a win that I had this week, and here's a setback that I had this week, and talking about business. And I had it all prepared. I had my bullet points written out. And when it came my turn to talk, the first thing I said was, you guys, I think my relationship's over. And that's the only thing that I can think about right now. And they actually helped me through that initial realization. And when I started saying, these are the points, these are the things that happened in the recent days that lead me to believe that this is over, I literally had people private messaging me, and a lot of men, surprisingly too, in that group reached out to me privately and said, I can't believe he said that to you. That is not okay. That is not true. You deserve way better than this. Please let me know how I can help. I just want you to know that you're wonderful. You don't deserve this. This is wrong.
Wow.
And so that, I think that's the flip side of the coin with abuse too, especially emotional and like manipulation, financial control, because it's insidious like that. It makes you doubt yourself. It makes you close yourself off for shame. And then you don't get that perspective from people around you who jump in and say, this is not okay. It's not okay.
Because you think you are just overreacting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You absolutely think that you're overreacting, and you think that it's something you did or something that you said, or, oh, I know that he doesn't like when I do that and I did it anyway, so it's my fault. There's a lot of weird twisting of the logic that happens in those kinds of relationships. And it's just, I want to end it. Want to end it all. So that was a really long rant about, these relationships, but they're everywhere. Even, I don't know if you're familiar with Selena Sue, but she's a big guru in the public relations, the publicity space. And she wrote an email, I think last year, about getting out of an abusive relationship. And
wow.
Yeah, she sent it as an email to her list. And I remember she and I have never spoken before, but I hit reply on that thing so fast and was like, thank you for sharing. This needs to get out there. And I want to be clear, it doesn't happen only to women, but it happens majority to women.
Yes.
So
that's true. Mm-hmm.
Abuse can happen anywhere, anytime, to anyone in any kind of power dynamic situation, but it does disproportionately affect women and children. So just want to add that little disclaimer there for anybody that raises the flag and goes, but what about men? We see you too, and we support you, and we love you. Get out of those horrible relationships. So
absolutely.
All of that to say, you've started this amazing agency to help these women. But I know we were talking beforehand about that being a little bit of a challenge in and of itself. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes. I'm going to kind of talk about the challenges which I face, because, and then maybe the solution even to that, because I feel like, it can help the audience as well. So basically, I think when most of us started an agency, I mean, we don't even know what's in front of us. That's the first thing for sure. We have no idea. But for me, it was the challenges of working with people, working with women. I had never worked with a big team. I have a team of 26 now. When I started this, I had zero team, zero experience in that. And actually how it started, Angie, this agency is, I just wanted to empower women. So I started teaching women how to be virtual assistants, how to be digital assistants. And that was it. That was my goal. And after I trained them to be digital assistants, it came to a point where none of them got jobs, because these women, as we already spoke, they had already been in abusive relationships. Their self-esteem had been very low. And so it was hard for them to even go out there and believe they could even get a job. Mm-hmm. We spoke about imposter syndrome earlier on. Basically, that's how they felt. And so this was an accidental agency. Like, this was like accidental. I'm like, I was it's an event where you were at that event too. And I'm speaking, I'm like, I have trained all these women and they can't even get jobs. Like, I don't know what's wrong with them. And somebody said, you need to start an agency. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to start an agency, thinking it's all okie dokie, easy peasy. and after starting it, one thing that happened is, first of all, is working with a team. And, as entrepreneurs, as part of this podcast, listeners, which is permission to kick ass, really, there is a lot of things which we need to kind of get through before we even kind of think about our team. So for me, it was the mindset of realizing that not everybody is going to be like me. And also the mindset of realizing that I probably should stop hiring mini-me's.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us go out there and think, oh, I'm just going to go and hire people who are just like me, and it's going to be perfect. But what I ended up having this agency with a lot of people. I think at the peak with like 37 women, with a lot of people almost all of them like me who have no follow-up skills, no follow-through skills, no, no any other skills other than communication skills, because that's who I am. Like, I'm a friendly person. I want to communicate. I'm relational. I'm innovative. And so I ended up having these relational and innovative people, and nobody who was talking about processes or systems. So really that was one of the challenges. So it was basically, we kept going, but it was just in disorder. It was so dismantled. It really needed to be revamped. And that's actually one of the reasons I ended up coming here to Zimbabwe.
See, that's fascinating too, because I think a lot of people who are interested in this is popular in my field in marketing and copywriting, starting an agency, right? Oh, I'll just have a junior writer write this and I'll charge a little bit of a premium. And how hard can it be? One, people management skills is a whole new skill set. You have to be able to communicate with your team without crushing souls, which is a fine art in and of itself.
Angie, I never understood why. I thought that if you sat down with somebody who made an error, they would say, okay, I'll correct it and move on. No, I started having people quit on me just because I said, hey, can you fix that? That's when I started learning that communication skills and how you communicate with people really means a lot. I remember thinking, like, I started reading a lot about leadership and training and all that stuff. And one of the things that really came out to me, and I want to share this actually, because I think it can help some people listening here. It was the 4 fear, the four F's, like the freeze, the freeze, how people respond. So freeze, flight, what was the other one?
Flight, fight.
Fawn, fight, freeze, flight, fight, and fawn. The other one is fawn. So I didn't realize that. So I thought that I just thought that I could talk to somebody and they should be okay. They should react the same way I react, which is to respond. But no, it started occurring to me that because of the women I was training who are from abusive relationships, who've been running away all their time, the moment I tell somebody, you can't do this, what's the next thing they do? Run away. Mm-hmm. So I literally used to get resignation letters day after day, without even realizing that I was to blame. I thought that they didn't want to be corrected, but I started realizing that it's because of the response. They respond with theirs is flight. For some people, it's fight. For some people, it's freeze, but theirs is flight. So when they see danger, when they sense danger, they just want to run away.
Mm-hmm. And that, that's a great point that you bring up too. They're interpreting what you're saying as danger. I'm in trouble. I screwed up. I'm wrong. Based on my experience, my life experience, my worldview, this kind of mistake could be fatal to me. It's literally not an intellectual response. It is a chemical, physical, reflexive response that they're not actually thinking. And if you come into that situation and you get frustrated with somebody who's just reacting in a way that they can't really control, well, then that's just going to escalate the situation way beyond compassion and connection first. And, I've always talked about empathy being my superpower, which doesn't sound like one, but, in a situation like this, I have the ability to put myself in that person's shoes and imagine how they're going to take what I'm about to say, and then figure out a way, like reverse engineer a way to soften that blow. In fact, one of my clients calls me the one woman bomb squad. He says that he likes to send me in to difficult situations that might blow up because he knows that I can talk it down. But that's exactly where it starts. It's okay. I got to say something to this person. I need to correct this behavior. I want to let them know I enjoy working with you. You are a phenomenal person. I have a problem with this one thing that's happening. Love to get your input on how we could fix that so that we can continue moving forward. And then bam, they might still feel some strong feelings. Nobody likes being messed up and nobody likes being called on messing up, right? Yes. There's a little bit of ego and pride, but there's a way to approach it that's not, and I'm so glad that you said mini-me's, because I think a lot of people make that mistake too. They're not balancing their own lacks with people who have skill sets in other areas.
Yes, yes. You have to hire for weaknesses. That's one thing for sure. You have to hire for weaknesses, but a lot of us don't think of that. We just think, oh, we get attracted when you're hiring, you get attracted to somebody's personality. And usually the person who you're attracted to is exactly like you.
Yeah.
And you end up having this company of smiling Thembis and nothing being done. No follow through, no goal setting, just smiling all day long. So, and that can be very frustrating when you're starting a company. Yeah.
Oh, I'm exactly the same, because I was all fired up about starting this podcast and like, yeah, I get to talk to people. And then in the first 2 weeks, I got super bogged down and depressed because there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes just to get one episode live. I mean, you've seen all the emails that we've had back and forth just to prepare you for this episode, to get your photo and your bio and not to mention all the button pushing and the editing and the things that have to happen. And so that first week or two, I was just like, this sucks. This was a mistake. But then I realized, in talking to people, because that's the other important thing, like seeking out perspective. That's why I'm in so many different mastermind groups. But they introduced me to my editor, who took that off my plate. So now I don't have that bit of overwhelm.
I almost shut down my agency. I seriously, it was so bad. When you were talking about like the overwhelm you went through the first 2 weeks, Angie, I remember thinking, it is so much easier to come up with a product, sell a product, and just make money. Mm-hmm. Because remember, with an agency, you're not only dealing with a big team, you're also dealing with the other end of the clients.
Oh, yeah.
And at one time, I remember we had a 26% refund rate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is intense.
Yeah. Yeah. 1 in every 4 people were refunding. Yeah.
That would be disheartening. How did you find a way to keep going when you've got that big scary metric staring you in the face?
I don't know. I don't know how I did it. All I know is I just wanted to give up. But at the same time, I was so committed to my goal of empowering women. So I didn't want to give up on them. I wanted to give up on the agency, but not on them. So I remember I used to sleep 2 hours. One time I posted on a community group, which I'm part of, and I'm like, I need somebody who can give me a solution to stop staying awake at night thinking about working with a team. Mm-hmm. I am that desperate. I was so desperate. I was sleeping 2 to 3 hours, wondering, what do I do with this team? There was so much incongruency. There was so much I had a lawsuit. I went through a lawsuit. And it was just messed up. But I'm not saying this to try to discourage people into starting an agency, but I'm just saying when your why, and I think that's really what kept me going. When your why is bigger than the challenges you're facing, it's so much easier to keep going, to keep at it. Because at that moment, I would think, okay, it's easier for me to just start a course. I already had a course. You know me, I already had a training. I could just whip it up and do an 8-week training, or even put it on Evergreen and kind of just have people just take it. But I thought, what about these women? What happens? What happens? And the good thing about having a big why, Angie, is not just having it to yourself, but sharing it with the world. Mm-hmm. I have shared this big why on stage. You know me, you've seen me on stages where I share this big why. So now when I think of giving up, I'm like, what do people think? All those people who supported me and said, oh my God, I love your purpose. I love you helping these women. What will they think? And those things kept me going. And eventually we're able to turn the company around, and things just changed. And I think the last I checked is probably lower now. We're at 9% refund rate from 26, which is great.
Yes.
9% is still not great, but from where we were, it was amazing. And we had really shifted a lot of things. And I think it's because I just kept going and my purpose kept going and I just kept inspiring. That's the other thing I think as leaders, that we need to stop doing. I think a lot of us, when we're in these businesses, we just want to instruct.
Mhm.
That comes out bossy. We need to inspire our team, inspire our audience, inspire everybody. I think that really is what makes us become leaders.
Oh man, that hits me like right in the gut today, because I was talking to that same mastermind group last week. It's like trying to figure out a new offer and a new direction for Permission to Kick Ass. It's not changing entirely, but we're getting more into alignment with my purpose. And they were asking me about the two groups of people that I serve and that I help. And I started describing them. And one of them, how did I break it down? I said, I've got two missions in life. One is to live the ever-loving shit out of this one and only precious life I've been given. And the other is to help 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs, blah, 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 blah. And that's literally one person interrupted me and said, blah, 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 blah. I like the first one. How do we get more of the first one into the second one?
Exactly.
I started instructing. I started going back to business speak and putting on the professional mask instead of leaning into that inspiration and exactly why people connect with me in the first place. It was eye-opening, and I still fall into this trap all the time. Oh.
Don't we all? We all? Yeah.
Well, I think we've heard all of our lives about what professional sounds like and what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And then we've just got these stories that are keeping us from following our guts and our passions, like you were talking about.
Yeah, it's actually the imposter syndrome. We spoke about this before we started recording. It's the imposter syndrome thing. It's like, I loved when you said to me just before the podcast, the message, the email says, just dress wherever you are, be who you are. Mm-hmm. Because naturally, the imposter syndrome says, oh, I have to dress up, even if it means I'm cold and shivering. I have to dress up. I have to put on lipstick. I have to do this. But really, you don't have to. We do it because that's what we're told to be expected as business people.
Mm-hmm. And that might have been true once upon a time in a different business environment. That was certainly, true maybe in the 50s and 60s in corporate America, that you had to look and talk and act and dress a certain way. But it hasn't been true for probably the last 2 decades. And it certainly is not true post-pandemic. Everybody got in on the athleisure for work. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. Yeah. Yoga dress pants.
Mark Zuckerberg made it easy for us.
Mm-hmm. Dress yoga pants, man. I don't understand why it really took a pandemic to make those popular, but that's the best invention ever. I still look put together.
Very comfy.
But I could do a pigeon pose if I needed to right now. Ha ha. This is fantastic, because I've talked to people about that too. That's the other group of people that I serve, which are smaller, starting their business, or they're creative freelancers, or they've hit like a growth plateau. I really love working with those people, because a lot of what they're dealing with is head trash. It's the imposter syndrome. It's the why can't I figure this out? Everybody else seems to be able to figure it out. What's wrong with me type thing. And that why, I think, is always what I default to when coaching those people, because I'm like, what is your why? And is it strong enough to carry you through the struggles that are going to happen? Because if it's just money, you're going to give up when the money runs out.
Oh, you will. Because actually, it's not even, this is the thing about starting a business. And I think most of us, the first few years are tough financially. Yes. So it's not even like you are making a ton of money. Like I remember in my agency, I'm like, why am I even bothering myself with this? I'm not even making anything from it. Actually, most of my money was coming from coaching, which I was doing on the side. So it's like, I might as well just do coaching and just forget about this. So it's not even about the money. The money is not going to push you through enough to keep going. Yeah.
Yes. I heard it recently in a financial course. I thought that this was the smartest way that he could have put it, because I've been dealing with like money insecurity and hangups and bad stories all my life, trying to dismantle the decisions that I make that keep me operating in that poverty mindset. And he said, what did he say? He said, you can only cut back so much, but the potential that you have to earn more is practically unlimited. And
I love that.
I know, it was like a light bulb going off in the best possible way. I'm like, oh, if I work just a little bit harder and I lean into what my mission is a little bit more, there's opportunities there that I haven't even tapped. because I'm afraid. And I'm operating from this protect my resources versus take a calculated risk. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
At some point when you were struggling with the business, did you have that kind of self-talk with yourself? Like, this is a calculated risk? Was it people that shined a mirror back at you that helped you believe in yourself again? Or was it just the mission?
I think at that time, my mission really kept me going because I was in such a space where, and I kind of felt alone because very few people, especially in the entrepreneurial space, have 26 people.
Yeah.
So it was at that time, and at that time I had even more, I think at like 37. It was at that time, like, it's hard to talk to. I found it hard to find people who had the same number of team members who were struggling with the same struggles. And every time I would tell them, they'll be like, oh yeah, just talk to them, or just hire a CEO, or just do this. And I'm like, I don't know what I would even do with the CEO right now. I'm just trying to figure out how to have these girls be nice to me. Maybe I should say, it's not that they were mean to me or anything, but in my mind, like, I just wanted a team that was just together. And really, I think my mission kept me going. Like, my mission kept me going because, and also remember, because of the culture I'm hiring from, it's a bit different. It was really hard for me to get people to understand what I was going through. Because when you're telling people, no, but these ladies can't do this, they're like, why can they not do it? I'm like, well, because the situation or the internet or so it was really hard to explain the things. I basically had to physically move from Canada and come here to Zimbabwe and just figure it out on my own. And yes, I did. I shouldn't say I did it all by myself, because yes, I was getting advices here and there, but I feel like I know it will sound selfish to say this, but I feel like I really was alone because I don't think anybody understood the culture. It's a different culture in Africa. I don't think anybody understood the culture the same way I understood it.
And they didn't take the time either. I mean, I'm going to go off on a mini rant, and I'm sorry if you're listening and you're the person that told Thembi just to hire a CEO, but that's shitty advice. That is not great advice. That simplifies a whole lot of people complexity that has to be taken into consideration when you're telling someone what to do with their business. That's not just you're one hire away from all of your problems being solved. No. And I love you. That's shitty advice. Do better.
Yeah. I don't think those people meant any harm. I don't think they had been in this situation for them to really understand it. Like, and it's hard to try to help somebody when you've never been in this, when maybe you've only had 3 employees. Yeah. Like, it's a different dynamic altogether.
It really is. And I think that's what
when you've never hired in Africa. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's the people component, I think, scares so many people from starting a business or growing when they get to a certain plateau and they need to make their first hire. They get terrified of, what if I make the wrong one? Newsflash, you're going to make the wrong one. People are going to quit. It's going to happen.
Exactly. I do have to say, though, that there is some advice I got from a good friend of mine who I think you should have on this podcast one time.
Absolutely.
Elliot Connie.
Oh, yeah. I love him. Yes.
Yeah. Elliot's told me this. I remember one time I was like, I can't even scale my business because there is no way I just went through so much trying to fix this team to where it is now. I am not bringing another 26 girls in. And she's like, Thembi, you kick ass. Like, if anybody can do it, it's you. And he gave me so much confidence. I was like, I left. That was just enough for me to say, I can do it. I can bring in more girls. I can bring in a bigger team and use the same way I used to build this team to be where it is. And it's an amazing team right now. Amazing team.
I think they can't see my expression, but you're telling me that. And I was like making this like, yes, oh my God, yes, face. But that ties into something that I've been talking about a little bit more recently too, which is that I refuse to be the reason someone gives up on themselves. And I think there could be a little bit more of that attitude and approach in the business world, because too often we've got people around us that are trying to find the holes in all of our arguments and tell us why we can't do something. But everybody needs an Elliot Connie to be there.
Yeah.
If anybody can figure this out, you can.
Yes, exactly. When he said that, it just gave me so much confidence. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to get 26 more girls. I am just going for it. Yeah. But at that time, it just felt so. Yeah, I have to say that, and I mean, he's not the only one. There were other people but that's what stood out for me at that time, because I was in such a space where any advice that was telling me to do anything was just didn't feel. Even though it's something I could try, and some of the things I tried, it just wasn't working.
Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the things that you tried that didn't work out?
Yeah. I tried, like, one of the things which people had advised me on is kind of just placing people in positions. But what I realized is taking the good VAs and kind of just giving them those positions to oversee the junior VAs was not enough for me, because what happened is what they needed is the inspiration. Mm-hmm. The not so good VAs, it's not because they are not good because they don't know. There's two reasons why people are not good at some things. Either they don't have the will or they don't have the skill.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So I had to fill those two in. Like, how am I giving them the motivation, which is the inspiration I'm talking about, and how am I going to give them the training? Mm-hmm. So when my company was at that really difficult position, people had no will and they didn't have enough skill. So you can train skill, but you can't train motivation. Yes. You can't train personality. You can't train character. So I had to come in and say, okay, there is this type of will. Is it because of personality, or is it because they've just been so discouraged and destroyed in their environment? They just don't believe in themselves. So if it was because this person just has the personality of not ever caring at all, then we let them go. Yeah. But if it was because they've just been in such difficult situations and they needed that motivation to believe in themselves and that training, we stuck with them. And I can tell you, we saw a huge turnaround from those people, because at the end, the reason why they were not doing what they were supposed to do, as I said, it was either the skill or the motivation. And I came in with the motivation, and we started doing some trainings, internal trainings. But just taking people when it's a team where it's so dismantled, in my situation, and saying, oh, I'm going to promote another person and they're going to help these junior people rise, that's not going to help if the spirit is just not congruent.
Mm-hmm. And I could see that causing basically the same problem that you struggled with, which was the managing of the people, especially if they're not mini yous. If this person that you promote, it's one thing to be a great VA. It's another thing to be a great manager of people. And that's not to say that it can't be learned. Yes. It can. I was not the most patient or empathetic person all my life either. These are all skills that I've picked up along the way and learning how to manage people. But a promotion doesn't make somebody a great manager or a great teacher.
No, it doesn't. And that's such a good point. That, oh my God, I can't really repeat that. A promotion doesn't make someone a great leader. And that's the mistake that I made when I listened to this advice, where I started promoting people. And I realized that. Mm-hmm. I learned that. Yeah.
I was fortunate that I had, that when I got promoted, when I was still in a corporate job, I'd been gunning for this promotion. And I told him, I'm going to make senior copywriter. Tell me what I need to do. I'll do everything. And he gave me a list and I knocked it out of the park and it was fantastic. So he gave me my first copywriter to oversee. And then he called me into the office. I did this so lovingly. And this is what I picked up this skill from watching him be a great leader and how he handled me, because I'm a very passionate, We'll put it that way. I'm a very passionate, very opinionated person who speaks her mind. So he pulls me into the office. He's like, Angie, could you come with me to the office? Okay, could you close the door and sit down, please? And I'm like, oh shit, here it comes.
Here it comes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he goes, okay, so you've been working with this person. I need you to understand that there are a bunch of different ways that you could potentially solve a problem. And yours is great. And it's not the only way. Have you thought about letting the writer develop their idea and helping them figure out what their idea looks like instead of trying to force them to use your idea? And I don't even know what my face looked like, but I imagine it was like jaw drops. It had literally never occurred to me to let someone else find their own solution to the problem. I thought my way was the way. Let me show you how I would solve this. And we'll be perfect because Angie's perfect and never screws up. She said sarcastically.
Exactly. Don't we all? Like all of us are perfect, right? Like I think that's the other thing, Angie, like when we approach our team members, there's a phrase I had many years ago, which says, when a flower doesn't bloom, you don't blame the flower, you fix the environment in which it grows.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, when it's our team, when it's people we work with, when it's other people, we are trying to get rid of the flower or fixing the flower.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking at the environment. We're not looking at, did I let this person express their ideas well? Did I let, I'll give you an example. Today we're doing appraisals, actually. We're in the appraisals moment right now. And one of the supervisor comes in and she says, yeah, they call me, what's the word? A bully. I got the bully award. They gave me a bully award. I'm like, bully is not a good word. She's like, yeah, you know why they call me that? It's because I tell them what to do and I don't hide it. And I'm like, and then I say to her, what if, I love that you tell them what you do, but what if maybe instead of telling them what to do, you could inspire them to be better people. You could inspire them to do something. Maybe instead of getting the bully award, you'll get the most inspirational award, but still get the same result, except it's a different name altogether because bully doesn't sound great. And this girl was like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought they were calling me bully because I was just telling them they shouldn't do this, the thing the right way and do this way. And that's the same thing you're saying. Like sometimes we don't open our minds to think the other person also thinks and their approach could work.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the funny thing about that is too, like I can appreciate now having hired people and managed people and all of that, experience that growth. I can appreciate how hard it was for him to call me a strong personality and arguably a workhorse on the team. Like he needs me to be there because I produce at such a high level. He's got to help correct me in a way that doesn't destroy my soul. There's that nice synchronicity there. And he did it in such a great way that allowed me to grow versus, I don't want to say forcing because that's not the right word, but leads me to choose to dig my heels in and be like, no, my way is right and experience no growth. Like he provided me with such, he gave me such an opportunity and frankly changed my entire future and all of the futures of the people that I've had the opportunity to coach and give feedback to as well by giving me the opportunity by providing feedback that he knew I might not take well. Like giving somebody some feedback and some direction, but letting them own it and figure it out themselves is actually a fantastic opportunity for that person.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you can see the difference in people when you tell them, when you kind of just guide them along those lines compared to when you just, hit the bush and tell them what to do. Like it just changes the perspective and it changes the company culture too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It really does. Oh, this is so fantastic. I love everything about this. Okay. Tell us more about the agency and where people can learn more about it.
Absolutely. So, as I said, it's Virtual Staff on Demand. You can go to virtualstaffondemand.com. I do have like a quick little free gift. Angie, basically, if people want to know how to work with a VA, it's called How to Professionally Work with a VA. Even though it's not just a virtual assistant, like it includes tips that could help you. So you can get it from virtualstaffondemand.com/free gift.
Fantastic.
So that's you can get that. And basically that's how you can learn about us, and would love to talk to you and support you in your journey. Mm-hmm.
Oh, excellent. Okay. For everybody that is listening, if you are at that plateau that I talked about earlier and you are terrified of hiring your first person, first of all, your first person probably needs to be a VA and offload some of the stuff you don't need to be doing. Second of all, get this training so that you can learn how to work with a VA and you can be more confident, and then you can actually start to grow. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being with me today. I appreciate you.
And thanks so much for having me.
So that is it. Another awesome episode of Permission to Kick Ass on the books. If you want to know more about the show, if you want to know more about me, Angie Coley, and the mission I'm on to help entrepreneurs punch fear in the face and do big, bold things, then head on over to permissiontokickass.com. That is all one word together, permissiontokickass.com. Make sure to sign up for my email list so that you know whenever there's a hot, fresh, and ready podcast episode out for you. And also on Mondays, I like to send out a little newsletter called Kick Monday's Ass. I'm sure you're totally surprised by that. So thank you for being here with me today. I'm Angie Coley. Make sure that you share this with a friend that needs to hear this message today. Like it, share it, comment wherever you're listening to this today, and let's go kick some ass.